So I wanted to talk to you guys about the latest and stories that I've been reading, including Russia leaves nuclear treaty as global fears heighten. Russian fuel exports banned to be lifted next week. Yellen warns Beijing, Chinese firms aiding Russia face significant consequences, and how Russia and China are opening a new anti-Western front in the Arctic. Hey everyone, Kevin here. Thanks for watching. Please smash the like button and subscribe. All right, so Russia is the world's leading seaborne diesel exporter and have imposed a ban on fuel exports back in September to address high domestic prices and shortages. Initially, this ban affected both diesel and gasoline exports, with the government easing restrictions in early October to allow diesel exports via a pipeline, but still maintaining restrictions on gasoline exports. And recently, these Russian fuel producers were informed of the government's plan to lift all remaining export restrictions on diesel and gasoline. The Russian energy minister, Nikolai Shulginov, indicated that some grades of gasoline might see an export ban lift, and other industry experts expect that the ban is to be lifted next week, with multiple companies preparing export schedules and refining their plans. Despite these developments, the Russian Energy Ministry has not yet officially commented on the matter, and note that diesel is Russia's largest oil product export, with around 35 million metric tons exported last year, alone, and mostly via pipeline. And in 2022, Russia exported 4.8 million tons of gasoline as well. Russian officials previously stated that export restrictions would be lifted once the domestic market stabilized, and this decision aligns with the expectations that restrictions would end after the recent grain harvesting season. Additionally, Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak announced that Russia would continue its voluntary supply cut of 300,000 barrels per day in crude oil and petroleum product exports until the end of December. And the Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin signed an order to terminate an agreement made with Japan back in 1993 aimed at reducing and containing nuclear stockpiles. This agreement was signed a day after North Korea's refusal to negotiate with the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, and focused on the non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Russia's decision to exit this agreement has heightened global concerns, especially amidst the ongoing conflict with Ukraine. Additionally, the Russian government revoked its ratification of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, the CTBT, back in October, which was a treaty that prohibits nuclear weapon test explosions. The United States, though a signature since 1996, has not ratified this treaty. Furthermore, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced in February that Russia would stop adhering to the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, START, which limited the number of strategic nuclear warheads in the U.S., and Russia could deploy and allowed for inspection of nuclear facilities. The U.S. has committed to adhering to the treaty until its expiration in February of 2026, provided Russia does the same. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov stated that Russia would consider re-entering the new START deal only if the U.S. abandons its hostile policy towards Russia. And this series of events, combined with Russia's deployment of nuclear warheads in Belarus, led the President of the United States, Joe Biden, to express concerns of the real possibility of Russia using tactical nuclear weapons. And U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned that Chinese firms suspected of aiding Russia's war effort against Ukraine, potentially by facilitating the flow of military equipment, could face significant consequences. And this statement was made following Yellen's meeting with Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng, and during these discussions, Yellen expressed concerns over the possibility that equipment beneficial to Russia's military might be bypassing Western sanctions and reaching Moscow. Now, she emphasized the importance of companies refraining from providing material support to Russia's defense industry and the serious repercussions they could face if they do so. Meanwhile, Russia and China are establishing a significant presence in the Arctic, posing a challenge to Western interests. Moscow has long claimed dominance in the Arctic, leveraging its military strength and control over the Northern Sea Route, the NSR, while Beijing's involvement has grown substantially. investing heavily in Russian Arctic projects and establishing cooperation with Russia on the Polar Silk Road, part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. This growing Sino-Russian collaboration in the Arctic has raised concerns, especially after incidents in the Baltic Sea, where infrastructure damages were linked to a Chinese vessel and a Russian atomic icebreaker. NATO Admiral Rob Bauer highlighted the need to prepare for potential conflicts in various domains, including the Arctic, pointing to the Russian threat from the high north and China's increasing activities in the region. Russia's geostrategic position in the Arctic is bolstered by its military capabilities and commercial activities along the NSR. China's ambitions in the region, driven by economic leverage, have become more pronounced with recent agreements and the establishment of a joint organization with Russia for NSR traffic. China, despite not being an Arctic state, has been formally involved in the region's security arrangements. The collaboration between Russia and China in the Arctic includes Russian control over Arctic ports and NSR permits, and Chinese investments in logistic operations. The extent of direct Chinese state involvement and President Xi Jinping's intentions in the Arctic remain uncertain at this time. Now, the recent infrastructure incidents in the Gulf of Finland involving damages to a pipeline and undersea cables have heightened concerns. Evidence suggests possible involvement of Chinese and Russian vessels. These incidents, potentially intentional, have raised questions about joint Sino-Russian activities in the region and the motives behind them. Now, in response to these developments, NATO aims to prevent conflict while ensuring the security of its infrastructure and maintaining the Arctic waterways as free and navigable for all. This situation underscores the strategic importance of the Arctic and the emerging challenges posed by the Sino-Russian partnership in the region. So the growing presence and collaboration of Russia and China in the Arctic introduces potential challenges to our Western interests. There's a long list of various impacts on the United States, including hits to the consumer, the stock market, housing market, employment, interest rates, income, savings, and retirement. And here's just a few of these potential impacts and how to get better prepared. Number one, the U.S. consumers. Get ready for increased geopolitical tensions, which could lead to higher prices for commodities and energy, impacting consumer spending and costs of living. If trade routes in the Arctic become contentious or are disrupted, this could affect global supply chains, potentially leading to higher prices or shortages of certain goods. Number two, the stock market, where the stock market is very sensitive to geopolitical tensions, and increased uncertainty and risk in the Arctic region could lead to market volatility. Industries directly involved in Arctic activities or those dependent on stable international trade routes might be particularly affected. Number three, the housing market, whereas the impact on the housing market may not be as direct, but economic uncertainty and changes in interest rates as a response to these geopolitical risks could affect mortgage rates and housing demand. Number four, employment, whereas if tensions escalate, defense and security sectors might see increased demand, potentially leading to more jobs in these areas. Conversely, industries relying on stable international trade or those directly impacted by Arctic developments could face uncertainties. Number five, interest rates. The Federal Reserve might adjust interest rates in response to changing economic conditions, which have been influenced by geopolitical tensions. If these tensions lead to inflationary pressures, interest rates could rise as a countermeasure. Six, income. The overall economic impact on these tensions could influence income levels, especially in industries directly or indirectly affected by Arctic developments. Regions and industries dependent on global trade could face challenges, whereas we move into number seven, money and savings, with higher interest rates could lead to better returns on savings accounts. However, economic uncertainty might also lead consumers to save more as a precaution, potentially slowing down consumer spending. Number eight, retirement. Whereas retirement accounts, particularly those invested in stocks, could be affected by market volatility, long-term geopolitical tensions could influence retirement planning strategies, with individuals possibly seeking more stable or diversified investment options. But needless to say, The strategic importance of the Arctic and the involvement of Russia and China in the region introduces a layer of complexity and potential risks that could reverberate through various aspects of the U.S. economy. The actual impact would depend on the extent of these developments and the global and domestic economic responses to them. And the best way that people and businesses can get ready and prepared to mitigate these risks can include, for consumers, budgeting and spending, and essentially just being mindful of spending habits and budgeting. Prioritize essential expenses and consider ways to reduce discretionary spending. Becoming more energy efficient by adopting energy efficient practices and appliances to mitigate the impact of potential increases in energy prices. As we move into the stock market and further diversification, investors should consider diversifying their portfolios to mitigate risks associated with the market volatility. This includes investing in a mix of asset classes, industries, and geographies. The long-term focus being maintaining a long-term investment perspective. Avoid making impulsive decisions based on short-term market movements, especially when we talk about housing. Whereas for the housing market, mortgage planning is going to be key, as those planning to buy a house should keep an eye on interest rate trends and consider locking in rates if they start to rise. Let's talk about home equity. Whereas homeowners might explore options to use home equity as a financial cushion if housing values remain stable. Jobs and employment and skill development, enhancing skills, particularly in industries likely to see growth, such as defense and security, or in sectors less likely to be impacted by international trade disruptions, would be a smart move. Increase career flexibility. Be open to career changes or mobility if certain industries face downturns. Interest rates, debt management. Pay down high interest debt, especially if interest rates are expected to rise. Take advantage of savings products. Explore savings accounts or certificates of deposit that might offer higher returns in a rising interest rate environment. Income is key. You know me, secondary income sources. Consider developing secondary income sources or side hustles to supplement earnings. Protect that income as you look into insurance products that can protect your income, especially for those in industries vulnerable to geopolitical risks. Save that money. Build that emergency fund. Build or maintain an emergency fund to cover essential expenses in times of economic uncertainty. The safe investment options are those to be considered safe, and I like safe investment options. Consider safe investment options for short-term savings to shield against market fluctuations, preparing for retirement, and effective retirement planning as you review and possibly adjust retirement plans to account for long-term market risks. This might include rebalancing investment portfolios. So for me, I would consult with a financial advisor, and seeking advice from financial professionals to make informed decisions about retirement savings in the face of potential geopolitical instabilities is never a bad idea. Remember, folks, I've said this before. I said it once, I said it a million times. Diversity, security, and cash flow. But simply put, the key to preparing for these geopolitical developments lies in being financially prudent, diversifying investments, enhancing personal and professional resilience, and staying informed about global and economic changes. If you'd like to discuss this further, then please just let me know. And if you find this information to be helpful and valuable, smash that like button and subscribe. Join the channel, and members will receive the most comprehensive and detailed, up-to-date information, as well as some of the specific strategies that I use myself each and every day, so that me and my family are doing the most that we can to stay ready and be prepared for the next big wave of economic challenges that are coming our way. Thank you guys for watching. This is Kevin 247.
I can tell you my problems, meditating my silence, but I keep pushing my pen, rotating my stylus. Brokenness feeling like sin, now no breath, low dollar. Used to be left on red, now all the girls go holler. Now all the girls go follow. All the fake friends gon' pop.